Hey friends, Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. So last week we were talking about setting your financial goals and really how are we going to do that? How do we understand how to set financial goals based around what we want to pay ourselves? This week, this episode is about making the time to actually reach those goals. Okay. So I did a presentation on this in the AMS, and it was just so valuable. And I wanted to give you kind of the overview, like in a nutshell version for those of you that were not able to join us at the AMS. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to just kind of go through. And for those of you that are on the call live here with us inside of the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group, how many of you actually feel like you don't have enough time in the day to reach the goals, to reach the things that you are wanting to accomplish? Now, I know that I have certainly felt that way before, but it's all a matter of commitment, right? And so in the beginning of the pandemic, when nobody knew what was going on and all the spas were still shut down and we were having to push ourselves in ways that we just didn't realize what we were actually capable of. A question that kept coming up for me was, how bad do you want it? Right? I was asking that to myself. I was asking that to spa owners. What are you willing to do? How committed are you to reaching your goals? And one thing that I think is important to note is like, it's okay to be more committed to your family. It's okay to be more committed to your self-care. It's okay to not want a 7-figure company. There is nothing wrong with that. You want to set your goals and commitments based on the life that you want to live. Now, in the same breath, I will also say it's fully okay to want a 7-figure company, to want an 8-figure company, to want to make a impact nationally or globally, like whatever that is also okay. What you need to do is really look at what is the guiding light for you. What do you feel called, motivated, like it's your purpose to be able to do? So really getting some self-awareness around that is absolutely huge. Now for me, I'm kind of at an in-between, right? So I have 2 small kids. I'm committed to eating dinner at the table every single night. That is really important for me. And so that means that I have a hard stop at a certain time. Do I ever break that? Of course. But the reason that I break it, I don't break my dinner. What I'll do is if I have work that I need to do, it happens after the kids go to bed, right? So, but I'm not doing that all of the time. It's my bigger commitment is to my children, is to sitting at the table with them. Like they don't, nothing takes away that kind of from 4:30 to 8:00 family, bedtime, bath time, all of those types of things. Okay. So my intention for this episode for you listening is to help you make time on your calendar for the things that you're truly committed to. Okay. So when you step 1 of this process, and we're going to go through a multi-step process here, and this is something that I'm doing every single year. I want you to think about the things that you felt that were really important, but that you did not have time to do. Okay. And I want you to list those out. So the other part of this is going through and looking at those personal days that you need off. So your kids' birthdays, your spouse or partner's birthdays, federal holidays, school breaks, really aligning the school calendar if you don't want to be working when your kids are on holiday, any type of anniversaries. So not just like a romantic anniversary, but if there's, a significant day for you that is, I never work on my dad's birthday or on the day that my dad passed. Those are special personal days that I just take to kind of be in reflection and remembrance and kind of honoring him. They're not days that I'm going to work. They're blocked off on my calendar on repeat. So I don't have to do this year after year after year for those, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the things that we all know that are repeating year after year. You can do that and set to repeat. Then we get more into like, do you want to have a date night regularly with your spouse or partner? Do you want to have a girls' night or a long weekend trips? Maybe quarterly you're wanting to go on a staycation or a long weekend or something like that. Do you need time in your schedule if it's important for you to take the kids to school or have family dinner or whatever that looks like? Go through and mark those times off on your calendar now for the entire year. The whole year, friends. Okay. And from there, you're going to then look at how much time you have available to work. Okay. Now, just some kind of housekeeping or logistics. I'm a big fan of Google Calendar. If you guys have been following me for a while, you 100% know that. And I like to have separate calendars on there. So I have one calendar for birthdays and anniversaries. I have one calendar that's my work calendar. I have one calendar that's shared with my husband. I have one calendar that's my personal calendar, one that's our food calendar. So I can toggle on or off whatever I'm actually wanting to see that day. Then what I want you to do is define your optimal work schedule. So are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? When are you most productive? Okay. I know for me, I'm a morning person. So if I have two tasks, exactly the same tasks, and you asked me to do one at 5 a.m. or one at 5 p.m. If I did it at 5 a.m., it would get done like that. If I did it at 5 p.m., it would probably take me twice as long. My brain just doesn't do it. So know when you're most productive and set your working hours during those blocks of time. Okay. Now, something that I think is a great practice is to do a time tracker before you are actually doing your calendar audit. This is going to help you to understand how you are actually spending your time. And we do have a time tracker resource. So if you want that resource, just comment time below on this video. It's right here inside of the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. If you're listening to this when it airs on the podcast, just come on over into our group. We've got all kinds of fun resources going on in here. And just find this video, comment below it. We'll get you our copy of the time tracker sent right to you so that you can have that and do it in a quick, easy way. But it's going to help you to understand where you're actually spending your time. Are you spending way too much time on email? Are you scrolling through Instagram? What are those things that you're actually doing that's utilizing your precious time? And then you need to look at your schedule, okay? And say, what is going to work for me? So this current year, 2022, I intended to do a 4-day work week, which for, a lot of the year I did, but there were certainly times that I broke my boundary around that. But my intention was doing 8 to 4 Monday through Thursday, with Monday being an admin day, where I could really get into my flow, do the work. And then on Friday was going to be my personal day where I take the dog to the vet, I get the oil changed, all the the kids' flu shots and COVID shots and whatever, all these appointments that need to happen that seem to take like 5 times as long as you think that they should. That was always my Friday, just the life of being running a household and being a mom and all those things. I also use that Friday for hair and nails and all of those maintenance appointments for myself. Now, what I realized is that, my schedule is kind of bleeding over into those days. And so what I'm switching to in 2023 is actually working Monday through Friday. But now that both my kids are in school, I'm shortening the hours. And so I'm going to be, working between 9 and 3. And so that will be my actual schedule. So I always have time to take them or pick them up if I want to. And so we're going to test it out, right? It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be adjustments that you need to make. The point is that year after year, we are making improvements on our schedule, on our time, on what we need to build our business around the life that we want to live. Okay. So it's really important to kind of check in, understand what do you need in this season of life? And that will change based on the season of life that you're in, right? Okay. So then what I want you to do is mark your shifts that you're going to be working in your location. Now, if you're still in the treatment room, this is going to be different than if you are out of the treatment room. Okay. So if you are kind of doing both, I would highly recommend having one day that can be focused on working on the business, on doing the work to help get your business to the next level. If you're not in the room, you want to make sure that you have your working hours scheduled at your optimal time of productivity. Okay. And then you want to block out these times on the schedule, on your calendar, that these are working hours. Now, I want to give you kind of a bonus tip here, because a lot of times we forget that, it seems like we should have more time, but my kids wake up usually around 6 and then leave the house around 7:15, 7:30. There's nothing on my calendar during that time, but it is a flurry of activity. It's busy time, right? I'm getting their backpacks packed. I'm getting them breakfast, getting them dressed, making sure they brush their teeth, doing their hair, right? All of these different things, sometimes reading a book. So there's nothing on my calendar during that time, but I know that I can't schedule anything during that time. Then I can't just go immediately to work after, right? I've got to get myself ready. I've got to do my hair, got to do my makeup. So making sure that you're giving yourself the appropriate amount of time, especially if you're having to commute and all of those things. So schedule that in. All right. So then step number 3 is defining your financial goals. And so I want to understand, what are the daily, weekly, and monthly goals that you need to set in order to pay yourself the number that you outlined from last week's episode. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back, check that out, listen to it. I'm walking you through how to set your financial goals for your business based on how you want to pay yourself. Okay. So I've got some questions that I want you to ask before, like when you're setting your financial goals. Okay. So number 1 is, do I have the capacity in my current location to hit my financial goals? So this is when I'm asking about capacity, I want to understand if you were 80% full, what would be the total, 52 weeks a year, or 50 weeks a year, however you want to calculate it. How much revenue would you be able to generate in your location? And this is obviously going to be different based on how many rooms or how many employees. I want to fully understand what it would be in every single episode. Oh, Amanda, it's actually not, I don't think it's that episode because it hasn't gone live. It's the live that we did last week. So it would be the live that we did in here last week from the AMS content. So I think that's the right one. Anyway. All right. So do I have the capacity to, in my current location, to hit my financial goals? As you're calculating that, make sure that what you're doing is you're including, should you have a split shift schedule? So a lot of times providers are doing the typical spa schedule, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 6. Okay, great. But what if you were actually open 9 to 9, 6 days a week or 7 days a week? So if you could really look at what that would look like, even if you don't have a team, you're totally solo. I just want to understand, what is the full capacity that you have in your location? Okay. Then I want you to ask yourself, do you need a price increase? So I would be looking at the consumable cost of your services, really trying to get your margins to around 80% is what we're looking for. There's always going to be a range. I don't want anything below 60%, but I want everything to be much closer to that 80% range. And look at it and see, do you need a price increase? Now, I do recommend increasing your prices by 3 to 5% every single year to, stay on track with inflation. If your prices are already where they're supposed to be, meaning you're close to that 80% margin, then it's just a 3 to 5% every year. But oftentimes what I find as we start working with spa owners is they may not even know the consumable cost or what their margins are on each service. And that's a really important piece of hitting your financial goals, right? So check that out. Next question to ask yourself is, do I need to adjust the time allotted for my services? So how much time are you taking? If you block out 45 minutes for a treatment, is it possible for you to do that in 30 minutes? If you're, really look at like how much time each thing you're blocking out for, and what does that equate to as a revenue per hour? Because I want to understand, like, hey, if we're doing, a lot of times we'll look at what's the most expensive service. And if there's an expensive service that's maybe $250 or $350, but it takes you 2 hours, is it actually more profitable to do a $175 service that only takes you an hour, right? So you want to really look at the math for all of those to understand what makes the most sense for my company to be generating the most amount of profit. Okay, and to that point, am I focusing on the most profitable services? So again, not just focusing on that, really looking at the cost of treatment and profitability of all of your services and making sure that those that have the highest profit margins, if they're equal in value to your client, like meaning they're going to give them the same benefit, if it's something that you feel is aligned with the core values of your location, what you're trying to offer, then you're definitely going to want to go with the one that has the higher profit margin. Okay. And then the last question that I want you to ask yourself is, what are we going to do differently to reach this new level? So it's really important to remember that what got you here won't get you there, right? I think I was talking with a spa owner this morning and I said, I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And so we want to make sure, like, how are we playing a bigger game? How are we growing? What are we trying differently? If we have these big financial goals where we're saying we want to increase by double digits, or we want to increase by $100,000 or $200,000, $300,000, that's great. And that's possible. And I believe in you and I support you. What are you going to do differently than what you're doing now to get there? Are you going to play a bigger game on social media? Are you going to introduce email marketing? Are you going to do paid ads? Are you going to do SEO? What are the things that you're going to do to take your marketing strategy and your client acquisition strategy or your retention strategy to that next level and really make the changes that you need to make to get to that level? I oftentimes will say nothing changes if nothing changes, right? It's really important to remember. Okay, friends. So that is all that I have for you today. I want you to listen to both of these lives, both of these episodes together. The one that we did about setting your financial goals and also the one that we just did right now. This is a great one to listen to over holiday break as you're kind of thinking about what you want to change in the coming year. Okay. I hope you find value in this. I love you. I support you. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode.